Beto O'Rourke recently relaunched his campaign after spending 2 weeks consoling members of his community in El Paso, Texas, after they saw 22 members from their community be killed at the hands of gun violence. 22 people died after a racist gunman went into a Walmart and targeted Latinos. And O'Rourke since then hasn't gone to Iowa or New Hampshire, key battleground states where many 2020 Democratic presidential candidates have been campaigning in, because they know those are key states to win. Instead, he's actually going to places that have been directly influenced by Donald Trump's divisive and racist rhetoric, as he says, because those are the people who really know what's happening in the country, and those are also the people who need help from a positive leader, as he says. So he went to Canton, Mississippi this past weekend to talk to a number of undocumented immigrants.
Las vidas de los niños.
Across Mississippi, ICE actually detained roughly 700 undocumented immigrants.
ICE agents raided food processing plants across the state, arresting nearly 700 mostly Latino undocumented workers. It was the largest single-day one-state sweep in U.S. history. It was also first day of school.
And the community is also trying to find ways to take care of children whose parents were swept up in these raids, who are left by themselves. They don't know how they'll be able to pay not only for their own kids, but also these other children, some of whom are being housed in a nearby gym. And even if the parents are released, they are only living on one income instead of two. So that is really impacting the dynamics of the community.
When I heard about what had happened in Mississippi, it was another dot that we've got to connect for the American people. That massacre in El Paso did not happen in a vacuum. This raid did not happen in a vacuum. There is an attack on immigrants, and specifically Hispanics, in this country right now under this administration.
From there, he went to Little Rock, Arkansas, where he met with Hispanic immigrants at another grocery store and a Mexican restaurant.
Gente que necesitan cruzar sin documentos y estar aquí en miedo, en la sombra.
That town hall revolved around things that, not only things that they fear, discrimination that they have seen rise in the Trump era, but also how can he improve the immigration system. He also talked about how he will try and find a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented immigrants currently living in the United States.
I think we need to very clearly, defiantly stake out our position and our goals, which means no walls, no cages for kids, no internal deportations. We make ourselves safe and secure by treating people with respect and dignity, legalize more than 10 million people here, including dreamers, and afford those who want to come to this country to work, to join families, a safe, legal, but quick path in order to do that.
Going to smaller towns that are not on many candidates' maps simply because they might be a super red state that he says, you know, can shine ruby red from outer space. But he wants to go listen to those people and especially try and tell these people what he can do, how different of a president he would be than Donald Trump.
I have not done as good a job as I need to so far, but I'm doing my best right now to be as clear and clear-eyed about the challenges and the solutions to them as I can.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.